Hey now, welcome to Lone Star Mini Restoration episode 34. Today is all about this bad boy. Let me bring it in. Well, it's about my restoration. However, it's about tying the floor down, and I have chosen to go with Clecos. So, but before I do that, I did have to. I think I've worked out all the kinks on the floorboard. I believe that it's fitting as perfect as I can get it. You know, new shell, 30-year-old, sorry, mind the gap. New floor pan, 30-year-old shell. I believe I've got all the kinks out of the way. And so before I start this process, I will go around and I'll show you the little intricate details that were, just being problematic. But I've got it. I think I have the floor in where it needs to go. And so now everything. I will take a few more measurements and then I'm going to start drilling holes and I'm going to tie it together. So I also got a new package in from Mini Spares, and I'll show you some of those parts that I got as well. But as you can see, I pulled the shell outside because it's a beautiful day today. So, all right, I'm going to crack on with this, but before I get started with this, I'm going to go around and just show you the things I've done. Oh, the first thing I did, I will say, is on the heel board. I had to, well, I'll show you. Let's go. Okay, before I can check fit the heel board, I have to notch this flange because unlike the existing heel board, this flange was thicker than the one that came off the car. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this drill bit right here, and I'm just going to clean this up, take a little bit off so that when I push this in, it'll fit nicely with the bag bend. One of the problems that I had was that I could not get the new heel board sitting all the way down, and I was just like, what in the world? So I took the rear subframe, I took the heel board, and I took the floor off. I don't know, probably 3 times trying to figure out. So what I did was I ended up going around the perimeter. Let's see here. Going around the perimeter of the car looking for anything and everything that could be hitting. And sure enough, right in here, this is the back part of the right-hand doorstep. There was a spot weld right literally, oh, there it is right there. That spot weld right there, I didn't grind down, I didn't sand down. So it was sticking out. So when I was trying to put this inner sill, put the floor down, the inner sill was hitting that little bad boy, and it was preventing it from going further down. And I needed maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 millimeters for it to go. And finally, when I found that, I ground that down, and then, yeah, sure enough. The other thing was up here at the front of the car, as you can see, this is a nice fit now, but earlier this floor pan needed to come further forward, but I couldn't because there's all kinds of there was all kinds of patch metal still there, and so I had to grind all that away. In fact, this piece here I just had to cut off. But you can see if you look down through there, it's a pretty nice fit, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty nice fit. Pretty nice fit all the way. So, and as you can see here, I've got it all back together. Let me come back out. I've got the rear subframe back on. I've got my wood blocks, if you can see, let's see, right there, and on the other side I've got my wood blocks in that help space the rear subframe off the accurate dimension. So everything is ready to go. I have my, let's come in here. I have in here, you can see, of course it's upside down, but I put the floor beam back in. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Anyhow, I put the floor beam back in, and everything really is ready to go. The only question mark that I have now is that dadgum bench support bracket. on the other car, it was bent way the heck back. And this sucker's very tight. It won't go back there. So I don't know about that. That's still a question mark, but I'm not really concerned about that. I want to get the floor panel correct on the car, and then I'll worry about that bracket. Anyhow, everything else is good to go. Okay, so before I start locating the Clecos, there's a couple, or one thing that I definitely wanted to mention. So I had to have another think, right? I had to sit down and think, all right, I want to make sure I do this right. I don't want to screw this up. I mean, I'm drilling a very small hole for a Cleco, so it's not a huge deal if I screw up. However, I wanted to make sure I do it right. And one of the things that I just want to point out, because it makes sense to me, is I'm going to start from the center of the car with the floor and the cross beam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the center of the car, and I'm going to tie the cross beam to the tunnel, and then I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start working out. You know, I'll probably do 1 or 2 on the left side, then 1 or 2 on the right side, then 1 or 2 on the left side, 1 or 2 on the right side. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to keep the floor panel to be accurately stiffened from center out. Whereas if I were to go and start tying the inner sill to the doorstep on the outer wing, if the floor is bowing whatsoever, and I tie one whole side down to the doorstep, then I may not be able to pull that up accurately. Of course I could pull it up, but it may not be accurate. So then you end up with a kind of a wonky floor relative to the crossbeam and the other side of the car. So I'm going to start in the center of the car, you know, to tack it, attach it, build out, and then I'll do the door seams. And then I'll figure out the front and the heel board and all that good stuff. But that's where I'm going to start. I just thought I should mention that. Just seems to be logical to me. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm going to practice. I need to make sure I have the right drill bit for this Cleco. This Cleco, I'm using the 1/8 inch Clecos, and so I'm going to do a little test here with the old floor panel just to make sure my hole is drilled correctly. All right. Looks as though I'm in business. Step 1 is complete. As you can see here, the crossbeam is tied in. Again, the thought process was to start, I tied the crossbeam to the tunnel in the center, and then I worked out. So I did this, I did the tunnel, the top of the tunnel first, then I did 1 or 2 on this side, then 1 or 2 on that side, then 1 or 2 on this side, and back and forth. Just so that I could make sure the floor panel cinched up to the tunnel or to the crossbeam correctly, versus starting on one side and then it being off a little bit as I go across. So hopefully, you know, I don't know, hopefully the job is good. One thing I will say is that I had to resort to a smaller gun because my battery powered drill couldn't get in here with all this bracing. I couldn't drill those holes. So I had to resort to a smaller gun. Step 1 is complete. All right. I have the floorboard pretty much in place. I have it, as you can see here, I have it clecoed down all the way around, in fact. Along the doorstep, I have it. I don't have too many. I just have, let's see where, there we go. I just have a few here and there. But on the front as well. And then, let's see, coming around the car, you know, I've got more clecos on the other doorstep. Again, not many, but enough to keep it in place. Now, I've had, you know, quite a bit of fiddling to do, and I am not happy with this Magnum panel. Let me just say that, and let me show you. This sucker does not fit. It does not match the Heritage floor panel. Look, if you look up, I can't reach up there, but if you look right where my finger is pointing, where the heel board notches out and the mating flange of the floor, this side kind of matches fairly well, right along that line. It kind of matches, you know, I would almost accept it, you know, like that. However, let's go to the other side. Coming in here to the other side, look at this. Look at that horrible, I'll try to, look at I'm pointing right to it. Look at that horrible gap. The bend out in the floor panel is much larger than the bend out in the heel board. And there's no way that I can, basically what I would have to do is I'd have to cut that and almost lay it flat, which I don't want to do. And there's other issues too. Let me see if I can show you the issues. Yeah, I can, up here. It doesn't matter what I do. See the gaps here between the floor panel and the heel board? You know, like here, this Cleco pulled it in fairly well. But if you look at that one over there, let me try to zoom into it. That guy right there, I can't pull that in. I've tried and it just will not pull in. And so look at that big old gap. And then, it, you know, basically the same with this one. So basically this heel board, man, I'm not pleased with it. So it's given me second thoughts. I think I'm going to bite the bullet and order a Heritage panel. Okay, I'm going to call this one a wrap, but just to recap, what I've done today is I have created the notch in the heel board so that it clears my companion bends, because the flanges on the Magnum heel board were much wider than the existing flange. Therefore, when I was putting it in, they were hitting the companion bends. So basically, all I did was create a circular notch so that it would slide in. So I did that. Then I went around the perimeter where the floor pan was sitting down, and I basically had to clean away spot weld removal, you know, Klingon metal, and just patch jobs just to get so the floor panel would fit nicely down inside. And then I started with the crossbeam. I put the crossbeam in place, and I started attaching it to the floor beam with Clecos, and I started in the center of the car, and I kind of worked out. That way it made sure there was no bubbling or lapping or one side, you know, slightly off from the other. At least mentally, that's the way I did it. So I started there, and then I started going around the perimeter of the car, attaching it. I measured the door heights. Thankfully, that I had the measurements on the roof. I double checked them, triple checked them before I drilled anything. You know, it's that old adage, measure twice, cut once type of thing. So I looked at all those, and I got that daggum. I got the location of the floor, the lip on the inner wing, exactly to the dimensions that I wrote down. It was pretty much on the front end of the car. The door opening was 91.9 centimeters, and I got it right on the money. And on the aft side of the door, it was 91.45 centimeters. And then about midway is about 91.885. Anyhow, I got that. I nailed it. So I Clecoed that together. And then the final thing that I did was I started to attach the floor to the heel board. And that's when I found the horrible mismatch between the Magnum panel and the Heritage floor panel. So much so that I don't like it. Now, I know that the experienced people out there that have done this a few times, you could make that work. And I could make it work, but I don't like it. And I don't want to start cutting it up to make it work. Essentially, that tells me that it's kind of a patch job with a brand new panel. And I don't like that idea. Not for this many. You know, maybe later on, maybe so. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go inside as soon as I'm done here. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to pull up. I'm going to find a Heritage heel board and have to ask the boss if I can order it. So hopefully I'll be able to order that. I may have to wait a little bit of time before I order that. Anyhow, so yeah, I'm gonna call that a wrap. I think it was a fairly successful day. The floorboard is nailed in place. I did get the Heritage panel. I got I got a box in from Mini Spares. I got the closing panels in front of the rear wheel arch, and I got the full companion bin panels. So I'll start playing with those maybe tomorrow. But anyhow, thank you for tuning in, and bye just now.